Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking this really fascinating training module based on our source text, titled Saying No with Assertive Social Conversation and Communication. Look, for a lot of us, saying no kind of feels like hitting a brick wall in a conversation, right? It's awkward, it's uncomfortable, and frankly, it's something a lot of us actively avoid. Like, think about when a coworker asks you to cover a shift you absolutely do not want to take. But the source material we're looking at today frames refusal in a completely different light. It actually doesn't view rejection as the end of a social interaction, but rather as a complex, highly engaged form of communication. So we're going to dive deep and explain in detail the specific skills this module outlines to completely transform how we assert our boundaries. Why do we get tongue-tied when saying no? Seriously, I want you to really think about it. If you've ever been asked for a favor you couldn't do or been invited to something you really didn't want to attend, you probably know this feeling intimately. Your brain just freezes. The words literally evaporate. You want to refuse, but instead you're hit with this sudden paralysis. Well, the source material we're analyzing today begins exactly here. It acknowledges that this paralysis is the core problem we face when we need to reject a request. It's not just you, it's a widely recognized communication hurdle. So here's how we're breaking this down today. First up, the tongue-tied problem. Second, conversational follow-up skills. Third, the power of self-disclosure. And finally, eye contact in rejection. This is essentially our problem solution toolkit to get you communicating with total clarity and confidence. All right, moving right into section 1, the tongue-tied problem and understanding the paralysis of refusal. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is this direct quote from the text, and it's quite validating. It states, in this module, participants would understand why we often tongue-tied. I just love that the source deliberately starts with this self-awareness. By focusing on the why, the module absolutely validates the learner's experience. It's making it crystal clear that the inability to say no, that exact moment of freezing up, is a recognized phenomenon. It's definitely not a personal failing, it's simply our starting point for learning. You see, there's this assertiveness paradox found in the text. On one side, being tongue-tied means being paralyzed, silent, and completely unable to articulate your boundaries. But on the flip side, we have assertive refusal. And notice how the module defines this. It doesn't define it as shutting down or putting up a wall. Instead, it pairs saying no directly with active social conversation and communication. The text is teaching us that setting a boundary is, actually, a highly active, engaged social process. Let's move along to section 2 and see how this builds. Conversational follow-up skills and maintaining connection while setting limits. Okay, here is the exact toolkit for assertiveness provided in our source text. We've got following up on accessible information, self-disclosure, disclosing worries, and applying eye contact. These points are incredibly important because they show us that assertive refusal isn't just about, saying the word no louder or firmer. It relies on a highly structured set of specific conversational and nonverbal techniques that all work together. Let's isolate the first of those skills, quoted right from the text, the conversational skills of following up on accessible information. This is such a fascinating phrase. When we refuse someone, our initial instinct is usually to pull away from the conversation entirely, right? But the source is explicitly stating that effective refusal requires the exact opposite. It literally requires us to actively listen to the other person and utilize the information they are currently providing in the dialogue. Let's break down the mechanics of what that actually looks like in practice. Step 1, identify accessible information in the social conversation. Step 2, follow up on that information to maintain connection while refusing. By doing this, you're showing the other person that you actually hear them. You're staying engaged in the dialogue, which prevents the rejection from feeling like this harsh, abrupt disconnect. You are declining the request, sure, but you are not declining the person or the conversation itself. Now on to section 3, the power of self-disclosure. This is all about grounding your refusal in personal reality. I want to anchor our understanding here strictly to the text's exact phrasing. The module defines self-disclosure as disclosing one's own worries to others. Now, it's not about oversharing your whole life story. In the context of this module, self-disclosure is the deliberate act of sharing your internal concerns or worries during the refusal process itself.
So the crucial point here is that disclosing your own worries transforms a flat no into a relatable social conversation. Think about it. When you just say no, it can feel like a slam door to the other person. But when you apply the module's technique of disclosing a worry, maybe explaining the constraint or concern that's preventing you from agreeing, like saying, hey, I'm just too overwhelmed with my own deadlines right now, you help the other person understand the boundary. It softens the refusal by making it human, and that maintains the integrity of the relationship even while you're denying a request.
And that brings us to section 4, eye contact in rejection, which serves as our nonverbal anchor. We've talked a lot about what to say, but assertive communication goes way beyond just words. Take a look at this quote right from the text, applying eye contact to show assertiveness in rejection. The module explicitly links a specific physical nonverbal cue directly to the success of the rejection. Think about it. If you use all the conversational follow-up skills and you disclose your worries, but you're staring at the floor, the assertiveness just completely falls apart. Eye contact is the visual proof that you actually stand behind the boundary you're setting. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how the source material constructs a complete, holistic strategy. We can see the balance right here. Under verbal skills, we have following up on accessible info for the purpose of social conversation. We also have disclosing one's own worries for the purpose of self-disclosure. And then under nonverbal skills, we have applying eye contact for the specific purpose of showing assertiveness. It's just a beautifully balanced formula. The verbal skills maintain that social warmth and connection, while the nonverbal skill provides the firm boundary. As we bring this explainer to a close, let's circle right back to the title of the module itself, saying no with assertive social conversation and communication. This is the ultimate takeaway from our source text today. A successful refusal is absolutely not the opposite of communication. In fact, a truly successful, assertive refusal is one of the highest forms of engaged, active communication you can participate in. It requires listening, speaking your truth, and real physical presence. I want to leave you with this final provocative question. How will you use eye contact or self-disclosure in your next difficult conversation to balance your refusal with connection? Don't let these concepts just sit in theory. The next time you find yourself getting tongue-tied, maybe when a friend asks for a massive favor or a boss asks you to take on yet another project, remember this text. Remember that you have a specific toolkit to detail exactly how you are feeling: conversational follow-up, self-disclosure of your worries, and firm eye contact. Use them to help you set a solid boundary while keeping the relationship entirely intact. Thanks so much for learning with me today, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.